I have never shared this before. Today I'm answering some fun, but also some uncomfortable questions, including what was the worst cruise that I ever took. Oh my gosh, we did it. Our channel has reached over 100,000 subscribers. Now, of course, this was a super big goal for me, but I know that you have been there cheering this channel on. Truly, I know that your likes, your comments, you subscribing, you sharing my channel, you talking about it or forwarding videos to your friends, that has really made my channel grow so much this past year. I cannot thank you enough, and I am so glad to be celebrating with you. Now, chances are if you are watching this video, we know each other already, but for anybody who's new, my name is Ilana from the website lifewellcruise.com. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. Now, as part of our celebration of 100,000 subscribers, I thought it would be fun to be able to answer some of your cruise questions, your personal questions, as well as some questions that maybe are a little bit uncomfortable and maybe that I've even been avoiding. Now, before I get started, two things. Firstly, why not pour yourself a drink? So it could be a drink like this. This is an Aperol Spritz. I absolutely love these. Or maybe pour yourself a cup of coffee or a cup of tea so we can kind of sit down and chat for a while. And secondly, if you like this video, if you find it helpful, informative, or enjoyable in any way, then please do give this video a big thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. And if you haven't subscribed already, then what are you waiting for? I would love to have you here within the Life Well Cruise community. Let's get started. Now, to keep myself organized, I've divided up some of the questions into different categories, including cruise questions, some personal questions, some YouTube questions, those kind of uncomfortable questions, those honest answer questions. I have those in here too. I will also answer the question as to would we ever do a group cruise, and I am going to share with you, well, my cruise reveal and why I am so excited for my next cruise. So let's start with the first question. Do I book cruises based on cruise line, cruise ship, or itinerary? Now, I do a little bit of all three, and I would say especially over the years, I tended to book a lot based on cruise line because I really did feel like if I chose the cruise line that fit what we had envisioned for our cruise, I would more likely have the vacation that I wanted. And then after that, I would look at the cruise ship, but itinerary did always factor in at the same time because for many years, I was cruising with my children as they were young. I really did have to kind of look at the school holidays, and I had to also look into dates as well. However, nowadays it is a little bit different, and I definitely have some itineraries in mind, and I also do want to try different cruise lines. I'm really enjoying that. What was your very best cruise and what made it so memorable? So I actually have three best cruises. So my first best cruise was actually my first cruise. I think that there's nothing that is better than your first. We absolutely fell in love with cruising. This was on Royal Caribbean on the Navigator of the Seas Caribbean cruise in 2004. Absolutely fell in love with it. Now, another best cruise was my Mediterranean cruise. This we did a few years ago. It was 12 nights in the Mediterranean. Just being able to cruise, have the history of all the different destinations that we were going, eating the different foods. I mean, oh my goodness, the scenery, everything that we saw. This was definitely, in terms of pure travel experience, our best cruise. And the third was every single family cruise that we've ever taken. I just have so many amazing memories. I'm so grateful that I raised my kids cruising. They were just the absolute best family vacations. When we started cruising, my children were 5 and 9 years old. And basically throughout their entire childhood, they used to tell other people when people said, do you go to all-inclusive resorts? Do you go on land vacations? They said, no, we're a cruise family. And that's what we did. Now, I'm going to try to go through some of the questions and answers a little bit quickly when possible, but I do want to make sure that I do answer your specific cruise questions. So one of the questions is shore excursions. Should you be booking them with the cruise line or on your own? And what do I do? So basically, I do a little bit of both. I definitely recognize the convenience factor of booking with the cruise line. So I definitely do this, but I also do look at private vendors and I consider those as well. Usually what I do is I do some research. So I actually watch YouTube videos. Yes, I love YouTube videos. Those are a great recommendation. I also get recommendations from other people in Facebook groups and yes, on the Cruise Critic forum. However, as I've mentioned in my videos, if there's a very long day excursion, I almost always book this with the cruise line and not a private vendor. When it comes to travel insurance, do I book my travel insurance through the cruise line or through a third party, so through a travel insurance company? So of course, I can't tell you what to do. You have to assess your own needs. But for myself, I do book with a third party, so a travel insurance company. And basically what I do is I just take a look at the cruise line insurance. And for me, I don't believe that it has adequate medical coverage for my potential needs, and that's why I make that decision. What does the water taste like on a cruise? Now, I figure when there is a question, there are probably many more people that are wondering this, so I'm going to answer it. What does the water taste like on the cruise? In my opinion, it just tastes like regular water. I have not noticed a difference between a restaurant on land and the water on a cruise ship. Is booking on board a cruise ship a scam? No, it is not a scam. And I think that because there are really almost no disadvantages, a lot of people think, well, maybe it's too good to be true. Now, do watch the terms and conditions. You do want to make sure that you know if you are booking a cruise on a refundable or a non-refundable deposit. But especially on cruises where you can book a refundable deposit, I don't even think that there is a downside. You are usually either going to get a credit that you can use right on that cruise, or you're going to get an onboard credit you could use on a future cruise. And yes, you can still use your travel agent. They can help you to service your booking once you get off the cruise ship. And in many cases, you can even make an open booking. So in my opinion, no downside. Are cruise ships sailing full now? So yes, whenever possible, they are sailing full. So if they're not sailing full, they're definitely sailing close to it. Now, these cruise questions are a little bit more personal. So if I could only do one cruise itinerary for the rest of my life, what would it be? Well, it would be the Caribbean, just because there's so much variety in the Caribbean. And honestly, I think it's because I do come from a cold climate. I really crave the sun, the blue ocean, the green of the trees, the flowers. So I sort of almost need to see this. So definitely, if I could only do one, it would be Caribbean. What is my favorite food on a cruise? Well, I have a few because I really do love cruise food, but some of my favorites across a lot of different cruise lines is the salmon. I just love that. I also love having Eggs Benedict. I really love pizza. Now, in particular, I like the pizza on Princess cruise ships and in particular at Alfredo's. Now, some highlights on a few different cruise lines is specialty dining at Tuscan Grill on Celebrity Cruises. That has been like my absolute favorite. On a Carnival cruise that we did in the past, their chocolate lava cake, that is just the most delicious mouth-watering dessert. It's like a guilty pleasure. On my recent Holland America cruise, I had a dish. It was Szechuan shrimp in Tamarind, so a specialty restaurant, but it was the best Szechuan shrimp that I have ever had in my life. And the fettuccine Alfredo on Princess, that ranks high on my list. Now, this question isn't too controversial, but it definitely is a little bit hard to answer. It's, what is your favorite cruise line? Now, of course, I've had a lot of different cruises that we've really enjoyed, but these days, and I guess it is partially because of my age and what our interests are, but our favorite cruise lines are Celebrity. Holland America is a new one that I think that I really do like, and also Princess. That said, I think that at all different points in your life, or depending what you are looking for out of a cruise and out of a vacation, all of the cruise lines have something really amazing to offer. And we really raised our kids going on Royal Caribbean cruises, and I really have nothing but good things to say about them. And we've had some amazing cruises on Norwegian as well. And of course, I haven't cruised on all cruise lines yet, so I will expand on my favorites in the future. Now, don't worry, I promise I won't hold back. I am still going to be answering the question as to what was my worst cruise. And I'm also going to share what is the one itinerary that I would never do. What was my longest and my shortest cruise? So my shortest cruise was a 5-day cruise to Bermuda. It was with our friends. That was such a fun cruise, and they thought that they would not like cruising, so they just wanted to do a quick kind of couples getaway. So they asked us to go on a short cruise with them, and we decided on that 5-day Bermuda cruise. Needless to say, they were absolutely hooked, and by day 2 they were looking into how they could do this more often, and they've gone on 20 cruises since then. And my longest cruise was a 14-day cruise, which was actually a back-to-back cruise. That was actually a little bit of a dream or a bucket list cruise for me. I just loved that back-to-back experience. How many suitcases do I bring for a 7-day cruise? Now, even though I'm a pretty unapologetic overpacker. I do kind of try to be a little bit intentional, try to pack a little bit less, especially these days. But I did bring on my last cruise a 24-inch checked bag. It really wasn't 100% full, and I did bring a carry-on bag as well. In the past, what we've done, my husband and I, is we've brought a suitcase to share, which is a 28-inch, really good size suitcase, and also like a couple of carry-on bags. Now, the way I see it is I really do like to have choices as to what I'm going to wear on my cruise and on my vacation. You never know what the weather is going to be, or if you just feel better in one outfit than the other. So I really do accept that I'm going to bring clothing on my cruise, and I'm not going to wear some of it, and that is okay. Have I ever had a language barrier in a cruise destination? Now, I thought that this was a really good question because, to be honest, several years ago, I never really thought this would be an issue if you cruise and you go to a popular tourist destination. But we did experience this when we went on our Mediterranean cruise. And it was really, I guess, a lesson for me. I am North American, and I made obviously a wrong assumption that most people do speak English in tourist destinations. Now, of course, we could still get by. It was really not a problem, but we would have been better served if we knew some of the local language. So in particular, in Italy, it would have been good to know at least a few phrases. In Spain, had we spoken a little bit of Spanish, that would have been helpful. Now, thankfully, I do speak French. So when we were in Cannes in France, we were able to use our French, and that was actually helpful. Do I prefer longer or shorter cruises? Now, is this even a question? Of course, I do prefer longer cruises. Now, if I had my ideal time, at least for the phase that we are in our life right now, it probably would be about 9 or 10 days. I just like that length because you're not gone too long, but you're gone longer than a week, and it just feels like a little bit more of a vacation that you can have time to relax as well. Please let me know, what do you think is the ideal time or length of a cruise? Please let me know in the comments below. Okay, so let's switch gears and talk about some personal questions. Is cruising my job? So yes, can you believe it? Cruising is my job. Well, a few years ago, I would not have believed it, but it has become my job. And obviously, cruising itself isn't my job, but creating content all about cruising is what I do, and it is my business. So I have my YouTube channel, I have my website, lifewellcruise.com. I do social media content. So all of that does bring me an income, and this is what I do full time. When did I start my YouTube channel? I uploaded my very first video in June 2019, and true story, it took me hours to film that video. I think it took me 8 hours, like all day, to film that video. Then my husband edited it. Then my children watched the video, and it was about 20 minutes long, and by about minute 15, somehow like the camera started to tilt to the side. So it was just very poorly filmed, and my kids said, "You can't release it." And then I said, "But I spent so many hours filming it." And then my husband said, "I spent so many hours editing it." And honestly, even though I have a philosophy that you have to just start with what is, and you can start with imperfect, it was really bad. So I had to refilm that video the next day. And that was my very first video on my channel. If you look on my channel, I have not deleted any videos, and you could still find it there. It was, I think, 20 cruise packing tips, something like that. Yeah, and it's my first video. How many cruises have we been on? We have now been on 30 cruises. Now, this next question is about where we live and how we oftentimes go to Florida. We usually drive. So that means we drive from Montreal in Canada to Florida. And the question was, do I find it difficult to drive to Florida in the winter time? So yes and no. Of course, the winter does have its challenges because there can be snow on the ground. Oftentimes there is, either going to Florida or going back in the wintertime in particular. But what we do is we watch the weather reports. We have a rule that we never, ever, ever drive in a storm. So if there's a storm that's going to be coming, we either try to leave before the storm or we leave after. We just won't drive in a storm. We most often, we do sleep overnight at a hotel. And what we try to do, which makes it a lot easier, is we try to drive one really long day, like a 16 to 18 hour drive. And we are 2 people that drive, so we're able to do that. And then we stop at nighttime for a few hours. And then the next day we only have maybe like an 8-hour drive or so for the next day. So that really does kind of make it more manageable. Now, a related question had to do with the weather where I live. So, how cold and how hot does it get where I live? So, again, I live in the Montreal area of Canada. So, that's going to be different weather than, for instance, Vancouver, which is really on the west coast and on the other side of the country. So, in the winter here, it gets to even a little bit lower, but I would say it's pretty common to have weather that's minus 20 degrees Celsius. So, that is minus 4 Fahrenheit. And in the summertime, sort of on average, our hottest might get to about plus 32, maybe plus 36 during the summertime. So that's about 90 degrees Fahrenheit. What is my bucket list cruise? Now, I prefer to use the term like dream cruises or wish list cruises. I just don't love the term bucket list that much. But nevertheless, I have a few on my list. So some of them are actually to try a more like luxury cruise. I think that cruising really is an experience. So I would really love to try that. Some destinations that are definitely like high on my wish list is Alaska. We were planning to go there, well, when everything happened with COVID. So of course that was canceled. We haven't rescheduled that yet, but we plan to. I also would love to go to Hawaii and Tahiti, and I'd love to go back to the Mediterranean. And in this case, maybe a little bit more to the Greek Isles, a little bit more of the Amalfi Coast in Italy, and also to be able to see and stop in Montenegro. How many times a year do we cruise? Now, this answer has definitely evolved over the years. Years ago, we used to cruise once a year. That was basically our annual family vacation. And then as we were able to, we started to cruise twice a year. Now, this year we cruised 5 times and it was great. But being honest, there were also some challenges to that. What I realized was I really want to make sure that I keep not only the love of cruising, but also some novelty in cruising as well. And I do think that when you hop from cruise ship to cruise ship, at least for me, it feels like maybe the novelty would be lost. So I really want to try to kind of stick with maybe 5, ideally 6. I think 6 would be a good goal, 6 cruises a year in the future, but this year we did 5. What was your worst cruise? Now, obviously it's very easy to answer what was maybe one of your best cruises, but what was your worst cruise? That's always a little bit hard to answer. And in part, the reason I avoided answering this question is because I didn't want to make my experience on one cruise line with one cruise ship, and really probably not the best cruise experience that we ever had. I didn't want to extrapolate that into everybody or even into a judgment about this cruise line. But I will be honest, so it was a Carnival cruise and it was back in 2011. And there really were some lessons that I learned based on me booking this cruise. So it was a Carnival 7-day cruise, but the mistake on my part was I booked an older cruise ship, and maybe I booked it not really understanding that the experience is going to be different on an older cruise ship versus a new cruise ship. I also booked it after I had experienced Princess and after I had experienced Royal Caribbean, and I probably brought similar expectations to that cruise, and really that wasn't what I got, and that really wasn't right on my part to expect that. Now, some of the things at the time that made it sort of the worst cruise is there were a lot of sort of broken things at the time on the cruise ship, and that's always a little bit unpleasant. I also realized that I really like a more subdued, calm decor. And of course, Carnival doesn't have a subdued decor, especially back in those years. Now, while we still had a good time, we were cruising with friends and we went to some really fun ports. It just wasn't our best cruise experience. Is there a cruise itinerary that you just wouldn't do or you're not particularly interested in? So yeah, this probably goes against the grain, but I'm not particularly interested in visiting Dubai. So if there's a cruise itinerary with Dubai, I know a lot of people dream of going to Dubai. There's just something about Dubai, maybe the fact that it is so man-made. I also haven't gone to Vegas. It just holds very little appeal to me. Maybe I'm wrong about these things, but this is an itinerary that I'm not very interested in. Now, this next question isn't one that I've avoided, but maybe I haven't spoken really clearly on it. And I know people do have some concerns, and it is, what are my thoughts on the food, on the service, and the general quality of cruises right now? Because some people are saying they're worried based on recent cruise news. So to be honest, I don't think there really is anything to worry about. I've been on 5 cruises this year, and while I have seen some changes, it's like impossible to deny that. I've also seen those changes at home, and I've still really had such enjoyable cruises. And even when it comes to the cruise food, even with the changes, we always found things that we really liked, and I think that you will too. Now I have one more big question, and then I will share with you my big cruise reveal and why I'm so excited for this cruise. But before I do that, I did want to mention that if I haven't answered your question in this video, please know that I have taken note of your question. I have written down hundreds of questions, and they are going to be worked into future videos, either on their own, because I really want to be able to have time to expand on those questions. It really is a bigger topic, or they are going to be integrated into future videos. Now, this next question was asked quite a few times, and I've seen this question asked even over the last year or so, and it is, will I ever consider organizing a group cruise? And to be honest, in the past, I always just was really like, no, that's just not for me. I don't plan to do a group cruise. However, I maybe did think about it a little bit differently. I will tell you why. Firstly, my reason for not wanting to do a group cruise was basically that I kind of worried a little bit. What happens if I plan a group cruise and people rely on me for the group cruise and something happens and I'm not able to go? That is genuinely an actual concern. I am a little bit of a worrier, so perhaps that's why, but that's what kind of came to my mind first. And secondly, I want to make sure that if I planned a group cruise, that it would really be something super fun for people and that people would really enjoy it. Now, will I ever do it? Now, while I do not have any plans to do that, to organize a group cruise right now, I did really read a lot of the comments that people said and how much they've enjoyed going on group cruises, the camaraderie with the other people that are also on group cruises. So I really do appreciate that aspect of it. So it definitely is something that perhaps I may consider for the future. Please let me know if you'd ever like some form of a group cruise. If that would interest you, please let me know in the comments below. Okay, so it's cruise reveal time. By the way, have you been having a little bit of a drink? I've definitely been sipping on my Aperol Spritz in between the little parts of this video. Okay, so our upcoming cruise and the first cruise of 2023 for us is the Celebrity Beyond. I am so excited to be on this cruise ship, and really for a couple of reasons. Number one is because we really love cruising with Celebrity. We have just had such good experiences, and I expect that we are going to have a great experience on the Celebrity Beyond. Now, even though we've cruised with Celebrity, we've never been on an Edge class cruise ship, and I'm really excited to experience, well, the magic carpet, the gorgeous sunset bar on the Celebrity Beyond, Eden. Oh, there are so many things that I could not be more excited about. And the other thing that I really am just so looking forward to is we're actually cruising with both of our sons. And it's like coming full circle. Our kids were raised on cruises since they were very young, and now they are full-grown adults. And to be able to cruise with them, drink packages and all, well, I really am looking forward to this grown-up family vacation. Now, I'd love to hear about your next cruise and what are your plans for cruising in 2023. Now, I expect that I will make a follow-up video to this. Now, I don't have my 100,000 plaque yet. YouTube, once you get to 100,000 subscribers, they do have a verification of your channel before you get your 100,000 plaque. So when I do get that, I'd love to share that with you, maybe live. So let me know if you would like a live video that maybe we do a Q&A or really a true celebration. In that video. Please let me know if you'd enjoyed that down in the comments below. If you enjoyed hanging out with me, please do give it a big thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. And please subscribe, of course, if you haven't done so already. Bye for now, and happy cruising.